Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. And the new episode of Psycho's Platters, episode 132, Prince, Wham, Memphis man, and a little monkeying around. Yeah, I'm sorry, kids. I couldn't help resisting on that. So listen, like I said, new episode of Psycho's Platters. I'm feeling a little bit better, thank you very much. I've been out of the weather for the last couple days. Truthfully, due to, I think, once again, I ended up with a mild case of either disagreeable stomach or food poisoning. Not as bad as October, where I ended up getting hospitalized, but it took me out of commission for about 2 days. I had to miss work today. I didn't want to do it, but I'm feeling a lot better now, thank God. So, you know, I got to go back to the doctor. I'm almost time for a, what do you want to call it, a checkup is what the heck I'm almost getting at here. Let's put this over here a little bit, huh? Yeah, okay. So listen, so let's get this started off here before I even go into, like I said, this is a tribute episode to Prince and Lonnie Mack, who both passed away last week. But before I do that, I have got to go off and mention to you a nice little shout out. Alright? Remember I told you last episode that I found a very nice gentleman who also happens to be a friend of mine through the Wax Museum with Ronnie Dark's Facebook page for the radio group. Go, of course, like Ronnie's group and communicate when he does his shows on Sunday nights. But John from Off Center Records, I'll mention the address in a second, let me know that he happened to have one left after Record Store Day of the Monkees 7-inch die-cut limited edition 45, limited edition 5,000 copies worldwide. Mine is 3,831. This was Saturday's Child and You Just May Be the One mono TV version mixes is what this is. John, seriously, thank you very much for having, you know, for selling me this. Now, quick little thing here before I mention, I'm still actually looking for one more copy of this. I've gone online, I haven't had many results. Why am I looking for another copy? Well, for my best friend Kathy Emmer. She's a Monkees fan. I want to find one for her too if it's possible. I know it might cost me a little bit, but it's worth it. I'm happy about. I was happy with the price, by the way, on this too. So quick little advertisement here. He sent me his business card. Off Center Records and Collectibles, your downtown music connection. 116 Bleecker Street, Utica, New York. Check them out on Facebook. Off Center Records on Facebook. The phone number 315-738-7651. Open 6 days a week. 3 levels of goodies. 3 floors of goodies here. I mean, he says new and quality used LPs, CDs, tees, books, guitars, and gear. Pin, patches, stickers, memorabilia, rare vinyl, and more. Off Center Records. Thank you, John Keller. Seriously, I am very happy with what I've got. I cannot wait to spin this. So, that and very quickly, quick Goodwill purchase, still sealed. 2 DVD, The Supremes Reflections, the definitive TV performances, 1964 to 69. You got 16 different videos ranging from Where Do I Love Go from the Steve Allen Show back in 64 to Someday We'll Be Together on the Hollywood Palace, October 18, 1969. There's also 5 different bonus tracks and a bunch of DVD extras on this thing. I cannot believe I found this still sealed from Goodwill. Now, let's get this started here a little bit. We're going to start off with Lonnie Mack first. I'm going to show you I only have one album from Lonnie Mack. He ended up recording 13 albums during his lifetime. This, I happen to have his first one, that I've had this now for 10-15 years, the Wham of That Memphis Man on Fraternity Records. This is the front. This is the back. I'll show you the label here in red. I'm going to tell you the truth. This thing is between VG Plus and near mint. It is in very nice condition. So let me tell you a little bit about this. I had to write everything down here. So Lonnie Mack died April 21st. So did Prince. Both of them died on the same day. Lonnie was age 74. Between 1963 and 90, he recorded 13 albums and continued to tour until 2004. He also had interesting sessionography, too. He was involved in sessions with The Doors, Stevie Ray Vaughan, James Brown, Freddie King, and a few more. His early influences were R&B and country. His first single was in the late 1950s. I want to say late 58, early 59, on Esta Records, which was a cover of Al Dexter's Pistol Packin' Mama. When this album came out in early '64 on Fraternity Records out of Cincinnati, Ohio, the original here has 11 tracks, but it was 1969. An expanded version of this album using the same cover art was released by Elektra Records, and for collectors only, and adding 2 more tracks to that release. Wham ended up being number 4 on the R&B charts, and Memphis ended up being a top 25 hit on the pop charts for Billboard. So I'm actually happy to find this, but I'm going to tell you the honest truth, this is the only Lonnie Mack album I've ever found out in the wild, or even through record stores and stuff like this. I haven't found anything else. Like I said, his last one was in '90, and if I remember correctly, it was on Elektra, was what that one was. So, Lonnie Mack, like I said, really cool to be able to find that one. Now, the next bit here is a little bit more long-winded. Prince Rogers Nelson, a.k.a. Prince, also died April 21st, age 57. I tried digging around here, guys. I know I've got more than this, but I can't get to half the things that I really need to get to. I've got, I'll explain in a minute, but the first 2 offerings that I happen to have that I can show you right away, this one goes back to when, right around in the episode, the 90s episode. What I mean by that is it's episode 90-something. It was a 3-parter that I did in regards to LPs that were found in a suitcase at an estate sale at a storage shed. Well, this one here, Prince's For You, this one came out in April 1978. Soft and Wet was pretty much the main song off of here. Literally, like it says, produced, arranged, composed, and performed by Prince. He did everything pretty much on this. This was recorded in late '77. This one here, I'll admit, was a cutout. Now, I do want to kind of show you something. Now, remember I just said it came out in April of '78. Here's the inner sleeve, okay? It shows you this. Shows you all the rest of the tunes here. But why I'm showing you this is because it's on a very cool Warner Palm label. Alright? Now, I'm led to believe, like I said, this came out in early April of '78. I want to say by mid-May to early June. I could be wrong on this, but this is from what the research I'm pulling. They ended up shifting it to the brown label with the lines that everybody was used to. It's really nice to be able to have this, considering, like I said, they maybe 20 days, not 20 days, 60 days, 2 months, that they had it on a Warner Palm, and then they flipped it to beige. So I thought that was kind of cool. Same thing, a little bit obviously less tough to find that I would like to find from Warner Brothers on a Palm. Van Halen's first album. That came out in November '77, but still, you're talking the original was on a Warner Palm for 6 months before it, well, just flipped labels. So Prince's For You, April '78, Soft and Wet being the big song on this one. After that, of course, he ended up doing the 1979 Prince album, the 1980 Dirty Mind album, which I don't actually have either of those. I've never found those. The next one that I happen to have, though, from 1981, Controversy. This came out in October of '81. Once again, though, he did all the stuff on this album except the song Jack You Off. Yeah, I'm going to get to a little bit about this in a minute here, but I'm going to jack you off. He ended up having several members that would end up being in the Revolution. This one here, the album itself hit 21 on the Billboard 200, and then it ended up being number 3 on the R&B hip-hop charts. But anyways, here's the white label, the Prince one, for this one. Anywho, I do happen to have 1999, which was his breakthrough album. And I happen to also have Purple Rain, which was, honestly, I'm led to believe 21 million copies of that sold worldwide. That's incredible. But the thing is that Prince pretty much, I guess, he was one of, he kind of changed the game in a way, didn't he? What do you want to call it? Porn funk? Erotic funk? I mean, obviously, you know, 50s and 60s, you had some of those elements. But to me, it seemed like he kicked them up a notch. Part of it probably had to do with his upbringing. I'm led to believe Purple Rain, the movie, was at least semi-autobiographical. I cannot talk today. You know where I'm getting at on this. And a lot of the events I'm led to believe are true. But, you know, it always seemed like he had his demons. You know, between, like I said, the erotic stuff, the porn. I read something from a guitar maker on Facebook where, for example, Prince wanted, and I think these guitars were put in the movie Purple Rain. I don't remember the scene, but it has to do with he's on the top of a stack of Marshalls, and he wanted these Telecasters to ejaculate. He wanted them to be able to do that, and the guy jokingly called it the Ejacicasters. I'm like, oh boy. So, you know, between that and the Love Sexy album and the Black album, which I'm led to believe is pretty R-rated stuff there for '87, the original release of it anyway. I wrote down some things here that I wanted to throw out here. For famous musicians that worked with him on his records, in not really any typical order. Morris Day, of course, Morris Day and the Time. Sheena Easton. I did not know this. Carmen Electra. She was a model, right? She was involved with Dennis Rodman too, if I remember correctly. I guess she also was involved with Prince. Not only was she involved with Prince, she had an album come out in '93. I didn't even know she could sing. And Prince supposedly wrote some of the songs and produced the album. Sheila E. Larry Graham. Larry Graham, I guess, was one of his musical friends. He was a former bass player for Sly and the Family Stone during their heyday in the late '60s to early '70s, and he left to go form Graham Central Station, which was an excellent funk R&B outfit, but he ended up associated with him. Jesse Johnson, who was guitar player for the Time, but if I remember correctly, I think he did some solo stuff too. Chaka Khan, yeah, she was there. She was involved too. Patti LaBelle, Mako Parker. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, that's okay. But if it does, you remember him from James Brown's band, and if I remember correctly, P-Funk. He was in P-Funk for a little while. Martika. If that name, you know, I don't know if you remember that one. That's the one she did Toy Soldiers. That song, I didn't know she did a second album. Prince was involved in that. Mavis Staples from the Staples Singers. She was involved. I remember she did some background vocals for Under the Graffiti Bridge from '90. She does that. Vanity. She's dead too. If I remember correctly, didn't Vanity die earlier this year? Very strange. Sheryl Crow. Lenny Kravitz. This one threw me for a loop. Kate Bush. Yeah, Kate Bush actually did some background vocals on Prince's 1996 Emancipation LP for EMI. That was the first album he did for EMI back in the mid-90s. She's like, sings background on 6 songs. I just thought that was kind of weird. Some collectible stuff I saw right off the bat. He did his last Warner Brothers album, Chaos and Disorder, from '96. I'm led to believe is a tough CD to find, and it was, of course, like I said, the last for the label. The last album that Prince did while he was alive was released in December 2015, called Hit and Run Phase 2. He ended up, I found this out, and I thought this was really weird, to tell you the honest truth. Within the last 48 hours past his death, I was kind of nosy. I went through, he released 39 albums while he was alive. I didn't even know he had that much stuff out. To tell you the honest truth, the last Prince album I bought was Sign of the Times from '87. That was the last physical one I remember buying on vinyl. I lost interest. I remember a couple bits and pieces, like, what was it, Diamonds and Pearls from '91. The last, he did a cover of Betcha by Golly Wow, I think, which I actually liked. And then in '95 on the Gold Experience, he did a song called The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which I actually liked that one. That's the last thing I ever heard from him. So you're talking '95. But when I went to go back to go look at some of the stuff on Hit and Run Phase 2, it's really weird that a particular sentence or two got taken out of the Wikipedia entry from when I saw it before. He did a duet with Nicki Minaj. I'm not a big fan of Nicki Minaj, but whatever. But he did this song, and it was supposed to have been on that new album that he did in December. And for some reason, at the last minute, it was taken off. He did not release it on that album at all, and it was called Damn Straight Skippy was the name of the song. I remember reading the title, and I'm going, that's an odd little collaboration, I thought, but that particular part of the entry ain't there anymore. So I'm like going, why the heck did that get removed? Well, the one thing that I do want to kind of talk about very quickly, and there just seems to be just a little bit of suspicious stuff to me, in my opinion, about all of this going down. When Prince was with Warner Brothers from 1978 to '96, so he was there 18 years, technically 19, because he signed the contract in '77, I'm told. And by the last 5 years, so '91 to '96, he was getting very unhappy, I'm led to believe, with the way the recording company was treating his music. One little piece of example before I get into that, though, in 1989, when he was doing the Batman soundtrack, remember Bat Dance and a few of the other things, I didn't like that album, whatever. I was led to believe, okay, he was supposed to end up doing a very strange concept album for that. Prince was going to end up doing the rockers for that album. He asked Michael Jackson to do the ballads. Well, supposedly Michael was actually interested in the whole entire thing, but I'm led to believe that it had to do with the clash, of course, Michael being with Epic/Sony group and Prince being with the Warner Brother group. You were talking about two conflicting groups because Prince, I'm led to believe, lost something when he put those songs on that Batman soundtrack. They were going to become the property of the movie, aka Warner Brothers movie production. Go look it up on Wiki, okay, because it does explain it a lot more. So because of those factors, I'm led to believe, in other things we don't know, Michael Jackson backed out of the project. But to me, that would have spelled right off the bat, if I were Prince, I would have been kind of pissed. I'd be like, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm not going to get... So whatever. So by 91, he's starting to get pissed off at Warner. So he starts writing the word slave on his face, his forehead, his cheek, and I'm going, oh boy. You know, and back then I remember that, but I kind of thought he was just being way out there. Maybe he had a point. I know he was a prima donna, you know, it's pretty as obvious. But, you know, so the weird part about it is he gets out of the contract by 96 because he keeps putting out multiple album releases, you know, like 2 album, 3 disc, whatever, and he's doing that just to get out of the contract. Well, in April 2014, he signs a new deal with Warner. According to him, in that interview at that time frame, he would regain ownership of the master recordings made from that 1978 to 96 stint at Warner. Also at the time, there was supposed to have been a 30th anniversary CD reissue and DVD. Now, I think the DVD came out, but there wasn't that much in bonuses. But the CD never happened, the 30th anniversary. I went and looked through, I looked through the Prince fan forums, and there was a particular music forum, Steve Hoffman music forums, if I remember correctly. And as far as I could figure out, going from that April 14 timeline all the way to almost the end of 2015, it never was released. Alright, so the 30th anniversary CD, at least, now if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments below. But up to that point, there wasn't a 30th CD reissue. Also, he was supposed to record albums for Warner. Well, the Hit and Run, Phase 1, Phase 2, I looked this up. Those 2 albums, which were both in 15, were released under the NPG, New Power Generation, his label, / UMG, Universal Music Group. Now, I went and did a little research on that too. I'm led to believe Universal Music Group, Warner, 2 complete different entities. So did that mean that Prince didn't deliver any new product to Warner, like he supposedly said in the agreement? I don't know. The other thing, though, like I said, ownership of the masters. Now, I'm led to believe, I'm trying to remember if this was Motley Crue, Metallica, I can't remember who, forgive me guys. When they got their master recordings, it was a timed release of those masters. So you're talking about 2 years later. Did he get any of them back? Or was this something that was like, okay, at this year of the contract, you'll get this year of the contract, so on and so on. It's just, to me, it's suspicious. There is some suspicious things here. I guess also, I don't follow Instagram. It was either Instagram or Twitter. He goes off and says 48 hours before his death. And that post was removed, by the way, but I guess some Prince fans managed to capture it. And he said something to the effect of something about he didn't think he was going to have to watch his back anymore. That wasn't the phrase exactly. I think it was like, just when you thought you were safe. That's what he said within 48 hours of his death. And he dies in Paisley Park in an elevator of drugs. I don't know. It's weird. I hope more stuff comes out on all this. It just doesn't seem quite right. It's a little too odd. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe I'm reading into this too much. What I do know is that he was an innovator. He left behind a great body of work. Some of it I didn't care for. Some of it was pretty damn cool. The 80s was his decade. Seriously. It was. So, you know what, Prince, Lonnie Mac, Memphis Wham Man, and others that are to come and before, you leave the legacy of music, and that's what's more important than anything else. Alright guys, I know this is a long-winded episode. I'm going to leave you with here a couple new subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing. The Roller Rink Tea Party, The Vinyl Basement, James Griffiths, and My Vinyl 2. All new subscribers. Wax Museum with Ronnie Dark, Night Owl Lounge with Mike Adams, Sunday night 6 to 9 and 9 to 10 Central Standard Time. Go like their pages on Facebook and listen through the Uber Stations app. Tuned in as well, I'm led to believe. Thrifty Music Collectors Group, Tim Smith and Company, as usual. Great group, thumbs up to you, period. I see somebody peeking through the door. Yeah, they can wait a second. And YouTube Vinyl Community, Shindig Magazine, and everybody else. Blah, 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 etc., etc. Alright, guys. Take care. See you next episode. Rock on. Love you all. Yep. Bye-bye.